Hello, in this episode we are looking at a window head detail in a masonry cavity wall. The student markup shows 3 common points of confusion. How do weep holes actually work? What does minimum frame overlap mean? And does the airtightness tape stick straight onto the blockwork and brickwork? We'll walk through each element of the junction, clear up what's happening behind the scenes, and finish with a few design tips to keep your drawings clear and buildable. Welcome back to the Detail Clinic. This series is all about explaining construction details in a straightforward way and showing what each layer does and how they connect. Let's jump in. Today's junction is an external masonry cavity wall window head. By the end of this session, you'll understand how weep holes and cavity trays work together to manage moisture above openings, why the minimum frame overlap and setback matters for thermal performance and weather protection, how the airtightness tape connects the window to the internal wall build-up, how the insulation and structural elements link for thermal continuity. This detail and the associated student pack can be downloaded for free, so stick around to find out more about the download at the end of the video. Let's start off with going through some of the common terms you'll hear as we go through this video. The cavity tray is a damp-proof barrier installed above openings. It collects any moisture entering the cavity and drains it through weep holes to the outside. A weep hole is a small opening in the outer leaf, typically at 450mm centers, allowing water and moisture from the cavity tray to escape. The lintel is a horizontal structural member above the window opening, in this case a steel lintel with EPS insulation, which reduces thermal bridging. Frame overlap and setback. This is where things get a little bit tricky. So the frame overlap is the distance the window or door frame overlaps the insulation layer within the cavity. The frame setback is the required distance the window needs to be set back from the outer face of the external leaf, depending on the exposure zone. Severe exposure zones require a check rebate. We can talk more on that later. So airtightness tape is a flexible adhesive tape used to seal the junction between the window frame and the surrounding structure, preventing air leakage. Insulation is placed within the window reveal to maintain thermal continuity and improve thermal performance around the frame. Finally, the parge coat is a thin layer of mortar applied to the inner face of the blockwork to improve airtightness. So let's walk through the detail. So starting from the top, the steel lintel spans the window opening and carries the outer leaf of the brickwork and the inner leaf of the blockwork above. The lintel includes EPS insulation bonded to its underside, reducing heat loss across the steel. Above the lintel sits the cavity tray, so this is a continuous DPC that slopes gently to the outer leaf. Any moisture that gets behind the brickwork is caught by this tray and directed outwards through the weep holes. The weep holes are small openings in the mortar joint. They don't drain the window frame itself, but the cavity tray above it. They should be spaced no more than 450mm apart and kept clear during construction. Below the lintel, the window frame overlaps the cavity insulation by at least 30mm, could be more, should be more, and is set back from the external brickwork face. The overlap ensures continuity in the insulation layer, and the setback ensures the joint is protected from wind-driven rain. On the inside face, airtightness tape seals the junction between the window frame and the plaster reveal. The tape sticks to a clean, dry surface, usually onto the parge coat or the blockwork. It's then covered by insulated plasterboard, completing the airtight and thermal line around the opening. The full fill cavity insulation continues up past the lintel, ensuring the thermal continuity around the head. Internally, a 6mm parge coat and a 52.5mm insulated plasterboard finish the wall. So let's jump into the student questions. How do weep holes work? So the weep holes let water escape from the cavity tray above the lintel. Any moisture entering the cavity drain downs onto the tray and then out through these small openings. They basically prevent water from building up and leaking internally. What does minimum frame overlap 30mm mean? So this ensures the window frame covers at least 30mm of the cavity, meaning that the window will be overlapping the insulation, ensuring that there's a continuous thermal line. Ideally, we want a better overlap than 30mm to make sure that we get an even better thermal line and reduce that thermal bridging even further. The window is also set back, which provides protection against the rain and improves the visual depth of the frame within the wall. Does the airtightness tape stick straight onto the brick and blockwork? Yes, it should adhere to a prepared surface such as blockwork, page coat or a primed frame edge. The goal is to form a continuous airtight seal between the frame and the wall construction. Different taping systems are available for different applications. So let's run through some of the key points for this particular detail. So cavity trays and weep holes must be included above the window and door openings in cavity walls. Weep holes at 450mm centres maximum, and they must be kept clear during construction. Frame overlap of a minimum of 30mm to 50mm for adequate thermal performance, and the frame set back by 38mm from the external face. Not forgetting that in severe exposure zones, a check rebate would be needed, and this is where the joint is just better protected from the elements. Airtightness tape has to be applied to a clean, dry surface and compatible with the adjoining materials. Insulation continuity around the reveals will reduce cold bridging and condensation risk. The lintel specification, the gauge, bearing, insulation should follow the structural engineer's requirements, and cavity closures or fire stop materials must comply with approved document Part B. As always, project specifics matter, so the substrate, moisture, exposure, finishes, acoustic and fire requirements, warranties, insurer requirements, and manufacturer guidance can all shift the final arrangement. There is always more than one way to design a detail. So don't forget, you can download the free student pack for this episode, which includes the fully annotated window head detail, a glossary of all the key terms, the wash checklist for this junction, and key points and design considerations. There is a link to the download in the description. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share with anyone else learning about construction detailing. I hope you enjoyed the video. Happy detailing.